Oslo. Think of the Arab Spring and the crowds and the protests come to mind, like some big, unstoppable force of nature suddenly let loose. It wasn't like that. It wasn't that simple. It wasn't that obvious. And it wasn't that inevitable. It wasn't a change in the weather or just a big wave washing from one place to another. The truth is, what we saw, what we're seeing, is the result of a lot of ordinary men and women taking enormous risks, not really knowing what the outcome would be. Many of them, at the outset especially, not even imagining that there would be the thing that we now know as the Arab Spring. It was just an enormous burst of courage and determination. Tawakkul Karman is a good example of it. CNN's Mohammed Jamjoon has this look.
In 2011, Tawakkul Karman became Yemen's most recognizable revolutionary. By late January, the 32-year-old mother of three was leading marches, rallying pro-democracy protesters, calling on President Ali Abdullah Saleh to step down. She was threatened repeatedly, but that didn't stop her. She was then detained, an arrest that outraged her supporters. They flooded the streets of Sana'a, demanding her release. Once freed, Karman, already considered one of Yemen's leading opposition and human rights activists, suddenly found her profile on the rise. More and more Yemeni women, inspired by her courage, followed Karman's lead, gathering, marching, calling for change. A daring act of defiance in such a conservative Islamic country. But for those who already knew Karman, her level of activism hardly came as a surprise. As president of Women Journalists Without Chains, a group campaigning for press freedom, she was a voice of protest long before the Arab Spring took root in Yemen. In September of 2010, I interviewed Karman about two local journalists who had been detained and accused of ties to terror. She spoke candidly about how difficult it can be to report or speak out in Yemen.
What happened to these two journalists also happened to all people, to all political people, and to all political issues here in Yemen. When the government accused people who are against it, they say they are terrorists, they are from Al-Qaeda.
Good morning.
But within months, Karman was on a much bigger stage. After becoming the first Arab woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize, she traveled internationally, had access to high-powered foreign officials, and drew crowds to hear her appeal for freedom and dignity in Yemen. In less than a year, Tawakkul Karman has emerged as one of the voices of the Arab Spring. The problems of her country, poverty, oppression, violence, are far from resolved. And President Ali Abdullah Saleh hasn't quite left the scene. But undaunted, she says Yemen's youth will continue their peaceful revolution.
Tawakkul Karman, the people of Yemen have been brave, and you are proud of them, and rightfully so. But before all of this started, Yemen, well, it's one of the poorest places on earth. It's one of the most restrictive places for women because of its laws, because of its customs, because of its interpretation of religion. In fact, I've heard it said by serious people that it's the worst place on earth to be a woman. Is that true?
It's the worst place to be human, not just to be man or woman. Sorry, I'm going to speak in English. If I made any mistake, just stop me, because my English isn't strong. Look, in Yemen, the struggle, yes, we struggle in two ways. First, against the dictatorship, against Ali Saleh and his regime, and also against the bad the bad customs that force women to stay in the home. And who improved this bad tradition and bad customs is Ali Abdullah Saleh and his regime. So it's, you know, I can't just say that I have to fight just for women rights. No, I am, with all my movement, with all Yemeni people, we struggle for the human, for the equal citizenship, for men and the man. All of them, they didn't have their rights. All of them, they suffer from an education, from disease, from illiteracy, from war, from terrorism, so when we started our struggle, we started to build our country, and as a woman, Yes, as a woman, because we believe that our freedom will come through the all freedom of the all society.
Well, let me ask you about that, because the
Yes.
situation today in Yemen is so confusing.
Yeah.
The president resigned, but he's still there. His associates are still there. His relatives are still running things.
Yes.
A new government was sworn in today. There's a new prime minister, this new government, but the old vice president still running the country.
Yes.
People call you the mother of the revolution.
Yes.
Has there been a revolution?
Yes, it is complicated, but to the people who don't understand Ali Saleh and his regime. I told all the international community that I visited them in Washington and in Europe. I told them Ali Saleh is liar, and he will continue lying. He will, he will just, play for taking the time to kill people. He take the space since May until he signed for killing people under the umbrella of guarantee, of give him forbidden. Also after the signature, Ali Saleh, yes, he stepped down, but he will not leave Yemen. He will stay there. He wants to fire civil war there. And until now, the international community didn't do something good, a strong pressure against him. In other case, what about transition period? There is a government which is now, we achieved, there is half on it from the opposition. Mm-hmm. And Ali Saleh has stepped down, and his, let me speak in Arabic.
His vice president.
I speak in Arabic because it becomes difficult for me, okay. If you don't mind.
As a matter of fact, the situation is very complicated in Yemen, and the international community has not taken a step. The Gulf.
And Tunisia and Syria and Egypt.
In Libya, there was essentially war.
No, I don't want war. We don't want just to freeze his money and to give money back to Yemen. We want them to make investigative commission, international investigative commission that they announced on 2014 resolution from the International Security Council. So it must have that, because Ali Saleh will not implement anything. He just wants to enter Yemen to the civil war.
So what's going to happen to you? Because you said just a moment ago you're going to run for president. The election, I think, is February 21st. If Saleh is still there, if the transition is an illusion, is it safe for you to return to run for president? And are you really going to do it? Are you serious?
Yes, I am serious. I said if I will candidate, I will win.
Well, if you're a candidate, are you a candidate? You're announcing today?
But
are you declaring your candidacy now?
But I will tell you something. How can I say it? Will they allow me to candidate? This is the question I gave it through CNN.
Okay, if they allow it, will you run?
Do you know what is the Gulf Initiative say? That after 2 months, that the only candidate will be Abdurrabbu Mansour Hadi. He's the vice president of Ali Abdullah Saleh. Is it fair? No. People, they are struggling, they lose their bloods. We have more than 28,000 people injured and killed in the street for their dignity, for democracy, for freedom, for human rights, for anti-corruption, for good governance. They give us this thing. I candidate myself. People want to candidate me. And people want to candidate others. Do we have this opportunity? Please ask this to the American administration. Ask them. Yeah.
We'll be back from Oslo with some final thoughts about the prize and the prize money right after